This is my review of the DVD set for the Pacific Northwest Conference on Primal People. It's a 6-disc set. Tom Cantrell is selling this for only $33 at www.ghostsofrubyridge.com/Sasquatch. The first disc has presentations by Arla Williams, who's a native of Oklahoma, and I think who else is Kelly Milner Halls. Now, Arla's presentation talks quite a bit about some research that she's done in Oklahoma, some of the things that she has found in her research, some of the possible footprints. Also, something that's been kind of controversial: the supposed birthing stations, the alleged birthing stations. A lot of people don't know what to make of that, but that seemed to generate a lot of controversy when that was discussed on the internet about 2 months ago. But it was an interesting presentation. Arla's presentation is, regardless of whether anybody agrees with it or not. Kelly Milner Halls, she's actually an author. She wrote a book back in 2006 called Tales of the Cryptids, and recently wrote a new book called In Search of Sasquatch. I think that's what it's called, or The Search for Sasquatch. One of those. And she presented about her interests in the Sasquatch and how she utilizes the Sasquatch as kind of a teaching tool. And she talked about her book and talked about, meeting all these Bigfooters that to her were rock stars, such as Jeff Meldrum and Bob Gimlin and people like that. Now, I did not know that until recently that she was actually at the Yakima Bigfoot Roundup. I'm surprised I didn't meet her. But she was at the Yakima Bigfoot Roundup in 2009. And she's a school teacher by profession. Much like, of course, our good friend Cliff Barrickman. But she's a school teacher, and she's written this new book that came out not too long ago. I still want to get a copy of it eventually. One for myself and one for my nieces, because I know that'll be something exciting for them to to be able to learn about the Sasquatch, through this book. But that's disc one. That's disc one. I think Arla's presentation was really interesting. I give it about from a scale from I'm doing all this on a scale from 1 to 10. I think Arla's presentation was about an 8. Kelly Milner Halls, I'd give it about a 7.5. Move on to disc 2. Oh, by the way, on disc 1, Lenny Green actually performed some songs also during one of the breaks. He's got a new album coming out in August next month called Land of the Bigfoot 2. But you can get Land of the Bigfoot at landofthebigfoot.com. His first album. You can also listen to audio samples of some of his songs, some of his new songs also that are coming up. On disc 2, we had Jaime Avalos, who was appearing via Skype, and he was talking about some of the research that he has done. As far as, he's followed a supposed Sasquatch from one side of the Sierras to the other. He's documented footprints and things like that. He's collected, or he's cast footprints. He talked about some practical field tips and things like that. He talked about also that he went to Ohio not too long ago and found a twisted tree branch. A very, very interesting looking twist. Almost, I've seen photographs of other twists, similar to what Jaime had. He also talked about that he had an illustration of another Sasquatch that he had seen, which very interesting looking facial features on it. I'd give Jaime's presentation about an 8.5. He always gives good presentations. And then you had Tom Cantrell himself, the organizer of the event. He talked about the proof of Sasquatch and how in his studies he has found certain individuals such as Jeff Meldrum and Andrew Nelson, Scott Lind, Joe Russo, Henry Fehrenbach, Jimmy Chilcutt, Craig Newton, Melba Ketchum, people like that. Basically, his presentation, you may remember I put up a review of a booklet the other day. That was the presentation that Tom Cantrell gave at the conference. That was essentially it. I mean, if you've seen my review of the booklet, then you know how Tom Cantrell's presentation went at the conference. I give his presentation a 9 out of 10. It was a great presentation. It really was. It really kind of addressed the skeptics and the skeptical point of view. Then on disc 4, you had Tom Powell, and I believe after him was Paul Graves. Now, Tom Powell talked about something called the coconut telegraph. And this will also probably be deemed controversial. But he believes that the Sasquatch are telepathic. And what happened? And the reason he believed that is because he had gone to investigate in an area. I believe it was the Hoyt, a couple named Hoyt, April and Alan Hoyt. And they had some interesting things happen on their property, and I've heard him give this presentation before about the Hoyts, and also the photograph that appears to show something shadowy going from left to right. But also there was telepathic communication and things of that nature, supposedly. Now, one thing is, he thought that after he'd come back from one of his investigations, right when he got to his house and was going to get out of the car, he heard 3 wood knocks, and he considers that the coconut telegraph. In other words, something communicated from far away, allegedly, telepathically. And then Paul, I give his presentation, it was a good presentation, 8.5 out of 10. Then Paul Graves talked about his research and some of the people that he has interviewed, the witnesses he's interviewed. Quite interesting stuff from his presentation. He talked about how he utilizes music to try and attract the Sasquatches in and bring them in. That, of course, he's a musician, and a very accomplished musician at that. I happen to think he's a quite talented individual, and he talked about how he finds footprints and things of that nature, and he's heard vocalizations. He was trying to play a vocalization. Unfortunately, he couldn't because of he was having there were some computer problems. Now, he admits he's computer illiterate, but he described the sounds, and he tried to mimic the sounds as best he could, and very interesting stuff. And I give his presentation a solid 9.5. Really good presentation. I'm kind of pressed for time here, so I'm going to have to do this real quick. Disc 4 has Bob Gimlin giving his personal testimony of what happened that day, the Patterson-Gimlin film, the events surrounding it. Also, Lenny Green performing some more songs. Also, you had Alex Evans talking about the artwork that she does, referring to the Sasquatch, and also some of the things that she's found in her research. And she definitely she gets a lot of input from witnesses as far as to the eyewitness sketches that she does and the eyewitness artwork that she does. And the final presentation on this disc is from Ron Moorhead, who talks about the Sierra Sounds and talks about how they came about and things like that. He talked about how he fell off his horse and injured himself. And Scott Nelson kind of was in the audience, and he was kind of corroborating that because Scott was with them. Ron goes up to the area every year with his daughter. His daughter goes up there with him, up to the Sierra Nevadas, the same place where they got the sounds back in the early 70s. He talks about the new book he's got out, Voices in the Wilderness, which is available at BigfootRecordings.com or BigfootSounds.com. Gilman's presentation is always a 10. Always a 10. He's always great. Lenny Green, always great. He gets a 10. Alex Evans, great. Gets a 10. Ron Moorhead, I think, gets a 10 because he always gives a great, interesting presentation, especially on those interesting sounds. Then Disc 5 has R. Scott Nelson talking about the Sierra Sounds and how he came to study them. And I've seen Scott Nelson give presentations in person twice, and he's always fascinating. He talked about some new stuff, some other recordings that he's gotten from others. I think Ron Moorhead played a similar recording to one of the Sierra Sounds recordings, which was from Ohio, interestingly enough. Let's see, on this disc also, I believe Derek Randalls is on this disc also. Derek Randalls from the Olympic Project, and also I think it's Germo, and Dave Ellis. And Dave Ellis talked quite a bit about some of the things he's experienced, some of the sounds he's recorded, some very interesting sounds, screams and hollers and things like that. Scott Nelson's presentation was a 10. Dave Ellis and Rich Germo did a good job. I give them about 9.5. And now I'm being pressed for time here. The final disc has Dr. Jeff Meldrum, and Meldrum talks quite a bit about he talked quite a bit about primates and the comparison between hominin and hominoid. And the hominoids are the entire ape family, including the lesser apes, and that includes humans, by the way. Hominid, I think, is only, I think that's only the 4 basic great apes, which is gorilla, chimpanzee, gibbon, and orangutan, or the more well-known apes. But the hominoids are more inclusive. And he talked about some recent discoveries with Australopithecus and Zinjanthropus. He showed a comparison of the Patterson-Gimlin film of facial features to a skull of an Australopithecus, and showed that there might be a correlation there. Very interesting stuff. He talked about, you know, how Gigantopithecus got to the United States and things like that. And that's possible also that that at least 1 or 2 Australopithecus Pithecines may have come to America also on across the Bering Straits land bridge. Then they was closed out by Arlo Williams doing a wonderful prayer song, an Indian prayer song. So all in all, Meldrum's presentation, definitely a 10. He always does a great job. So yeah, this is definitely a great set. You can get it at ghostsofrubyridge.com/Sasquatch. $33. That's all it costs. And tell them Henry sent you.